Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.
Welcome back to the Global Indian Podcast, home to the greatest conversations and the official platform for open and liberal minds. Because yes, let's face it, we are everywhere. Now, as you know, every week we plunge ourselves into the human experience behind the perceptions of identity, take a second look at the countries we now call home, and tackle the big conversations. Now, this week has been a rather interesting week in India as well as the UK. The BBC documentary, The Modi Question, was released. Although it received a semi-muted response in the UK, the same cannot be said for India, where the government of India evoked emergency laws to block the broadcast of the programme. Scores of individuals fought hard to get hold of documented pieces to understand more about how the BBC are portraying the government of India, Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister, and to see the events that unfolded over 20 years ago. Now, I say intentionally a muted response in the UK because over 500 people did gather together in London, as well as individuals in Birmingham and Glasgow, to hold a protest against the BBC to say that this was a direct attack against their identity. Now, this is a really interesting discussion to have, and I wanted to be fair to all parties involved. I did reach out to a number of key individuals. Some agreed to come on and send in recordings. Others could not do so because they said in their own words that they were under pressure to not make any further comments from the House of Lords. So that was our ambassador for the United Kingdom, Rami Ranger. Other members refused blank out because of the consequences they may face in India. So my aim and my intent for this is not to take any political sides, but to have a look at this through the eyes and the notion of what defines our sense of identity within the diaspora. We heard chanting going through London, and the chants were as follows: the BBC is anti-India, the BBC is anti-Hindu, the BBC is anti-Modi. And that's what got this chain of reaction to say, well, how far does it go where head of state controls the identity of a nation? And interestingly enough, for the diaspora, how far does it go that a head of state of a nation controls the identity, in this case, of a diaspora around the globe, which is equally interesting. Before we kick up the conversation that I'm having with Vivek, who was one of the chief organisers for the protests against the BBC, I want to play you a couple of clips that we received from around the globe. The whole intent is just to showcase how other people took this and their viewpoints towards the documentary and what it means for them in terms of identity.
My name is Sabah Pade. I'm a Singapore citizen of Indian origin. Although I became a Singapore citizen, I'm closely watching what's happening in India. I'm very disturbed of the developments under the Modi government of marginalizing the minorities, especially the Muslims as well as the Christians. This is not good for the country. And the government is more interested in naming Rajpath into a new name, Mughal Gardens into a new name, when there are so many other pressing issues which they should attend to. Why don't they do it? I mean, this recent BBC telecast, they had told the truth of what happened. You don't agree, the government must rebut the argument with their proof, instead of just banning them to be seen by young people, especially at the universities. This is not good. This has only created more interest among the people. You ban something, people will be wondering there's something wrong. Well, these are my views, and I'm very upset about the whole thing. God save India. Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
And here's the next one, this time a bit closer to field. Baljit, who lives both in Mauritius and the United Kingdom.
Hi Rajan, good morning. This is Buljit Singh, British Indian, who also spends a lot of time in Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. So, just coming back to you with some comments on the documentary about Modi and what's currently going on in India. I think that just having seen, for example, life in Mauritius, where you have Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikhs, you have all faiths living in harmony with each other. I mean, there may be differences of opinion, but you don't see any hatred or any violence, completely the opposite. So that's a wonderful thing to see. I think the situation in India is pretty scary for that to be going on, and the government to be orchestrating this type of behavior where we're clashing with each other. I think it's dire. It's very serious to be creating that sort of narrative in India. Can this then be seen by people to be okay as a way of orchestrating violence towards Muslims? This can spread into other countries. People think it's okay. I think there have been issues here in the UK when people see these sorts of things on the news. It's not okay. It's far from okay, and it's something that I think is horrific. It's completely wrong, and what you do with your podcast, I think, is amazing because you're putting the.
Now, we received quite a few clips that came in, and many people also elected to give me a call direct. And it was interesting because the premise for many people was quite similar, which was, if the media house, in this case the BBC, is incorrect, fight it in court, make it a public spectacle, and let the court of public opinion see that the government of India is in the right side. Other individuals said, well, this happened over 20 years ago. What they were more suspicious with was the timing. Why now? Why 20 years on, where there has been less violence erupting in the streets, especially in Gujarat, over the course of years? Other individuals said, well, this is now the time for the world to wake up, especially on the eve of the so-called trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom, for the British public to know more. On my side, well, I rather look at the human experience behind our perceptions of identity. In this case, I have invited, as I mentioned earlier, Dr Vivek Kaul. Now, I have to say, Dr Kaul, not only did he arrive onto the platform, but he spent the entire morning protesting outside the BBC studios in London. And it's a very honest and raw conversation for him. What I wanted to ascertain from this is, why bother? Why go outside the BBC? Why does it impact you? And more importantly, what is the key message that you want the world to hear? Again, I am neither endorsing the documentary or fighting against it. This is a very interesting time. I think these are the moments that we should be having open discussions around the ideas surrounding identity, as well as the big issues taking place in the countries that we call home. But before then, a quick note from our dear sponsors. If you want to find out more about the Global Indian series, by the way, well, it couldn't be easier. Simply come to the website, which is www.globalindianseries.com. There you can listen to this podcast and the entire repertoire of discussions so far.
Hi, this is Dharmesh Shingala, co-founder of Novus. At Novus, we believe technology leads the way for a meaningful change. We are on a mission to change the way corporations, governments, and institutions interact with information. Same as the Global Indian podcast, help people transform for a better future. Find out more on how we are inspiring global change, either at the Global Indian Series website or Novus website, to learn more about our innovative software solutions. From our family to yours, I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you.
My name is Chitra Stern, and I am a proud Global Indian Ambassador and CEO of Martignal Resorts and Martignal Residences. We pride ourselves on the journeys that define a community, and our developments bring people together. Did you know that over 70,000 people just like us call Portugal home? The Global Indian journey has brought people together in a meaningful way. And on behalf of all of us at Martinial, we want to thank you for joining us in these remarkable conversations. We look forward to seeing you here in Lisbon post-COVID.
Hi, my name is Divya and I'm co-founder of the Global Indian podcast. Before you get to today's show, I've got a quick favour to ask. If you've been enjoying our conversations, I'd love if you could take just 1 minute to leave us a review on the platform that you're listening to us on and share our work to friends and family. It helps us out a lot. Word of mouth is the primary way that we grow. Thanks for your continued support.
Thank you, Rajan. It was a great day today. You mentioned me, but it was a lot of groups had come together who are youngsters, who are in politics, who are in religious kind of organizations, semi-religious. So all of them came together to have a protest at BBC headquarters in London, Broadcasting House, which is everyone knows, and also around the country in Birmingham, in Glasgow, and places like that. It's, as you said, introduced the topic as it was that we were protesting against this documentary, one-sided documentary, which we feel, and they had portrayed India, its prime minister, and its people in the wrong light. That was the idea of the protest. That is why a lot of Indian diaspora had come together, including all religions. Muslims, Sikhs were there. So it was Indians protesting. It was not a particular sect protesting.
So run me through, what was it about the documentary that you felt was unfair?
Look, Rajan, when I was growing, or even you are young like my son, your parents would have told that at that time there was nothing in the world but BBC. It was BBC or ABC, Voice of America. They didn't know what India was, and there was BBC. BBC knew everything. So in our country, and the All India Radio and later on Doordarshan, that is the state TV, they were under the government control. They, like TASS, they were modeled after Russian news agency called TASS. So they were all completely controlled by them. So if we had to know anything about the world or our own country, what was happening in our own country, we used to tune to BBC, not the TV. At the time, there was no TVs in 70s or 60s. It was always the World Service, and the World Service Bush House used to have all the various languages. They used to have Urdu service, Hindi service, Pashto service, Bengali service. So that was our credibility. If we wanted to get a credible news, it will always tune to that shortwave. And that time, if you ask your parents, also the shortwave used to run around. So used to fine tune it to bring it back to the place. And BBC used to be our, the truth, the final truth. There was is like gospel truth was BBC. Then what happened in the last 2 decades? Maybe BBC got other competition from basically during 90s. It goes CNN became its big competitor because of Gulf War. They did one up on BBC. They showed the Gulf War one live and all that. And around that time happened this Kashmir exodus, wherefrom I am one of the survivors as Holocaust victims of Kashmir. And they were painting only one-sided picture, that it was the local Muslim population uprising. They want freedom, they want this and they want that. Mark Tully was also doing the same. The saintly Mark Tully was completely biased. He was not telling that how the Kashmiri Hindus were targeted and there was a genocide and there was exodus of these people. Nothing. It was just, and that turned me around saying, and a lot of Indians saying that BBC is very biased. It was not what it was, 10, 15 years before that we used to totally believe. Even Indira Gandhi's death, we tuned in BBC radio to know if it really happened. And they say, yes, it happened. So that was the image of BBC Indians had at that time. It was supposed to be as I said, the gospel truth. And its facade changed later on. So that was, and this documentary you're talking about is basically, if you say it is one-sided. I mean, if a novice makes this documentary, I would pardon him. But BBC has got a history of since 1920s. And they have only taken one side of the story, that to a 20-year-old story. The Godhra and the Gujarat riots happened in 2002. Now we are in 2023. So what is the point of raking it up dividing the communities, and the people they called there were always one-sided. They should, if you had gone about the work about it, you would have gone to both sides and asked them what really happened in the so-called, they are showing only Muslims were killed, which is wrong. About, I think, 1,300 people were killed. Of them, I think 700 were Muslim, I think 500-600 were Hindus also. And the whole thing started when about 59 Hindus were burnt alive by jihadis in that train thing. That started it. And it was not only Muslims who were killed, it was a sectarian violence. One killed the other, and they were, in the documentary, they were saying that police was told not to act. Where is the proof? Nothing. The other side of the proof was that India's Supreme Court is very unbiased. They can go against the government. And even we had that special investigation team called SIT. Both of them exonerated Prime Minister Modi. So keeping that aside and just focusing on few examples and making it look as if Modi is like, completely anti-Muslim, which is wrong.
Is your issue, was the documentary anti-Modi or was it anti-India for you?
For me, it was both. It was anti-Modi, definitely, and it was dividing the religions of India, like Hindus, Muslims, and all people live there. It's just putting fissures in their lives. They have moved on. Even some Muslims, the vice chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, he said that Muslims have moved on. And since Modi has become prime minister, there are a lot of sops being given to Muslims. They have been given reservations in different places. Their Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, their daughters have been given scholarships. And even in civil service, where their percentage is less, they have been coached. And even a Muslim girl is given, I think, 50 or 60,000 so that she can make a new start in her education. So a lot of these things have happened for Muslims, and they were not even mentioned.
What do you think is the biggest misconception people have then? Because I know on this quest of identity, you're here in the UK, you're a British national, from what I understand.
Yeah,
and you're there outside the BBC, and you got flags of India that are being flown. What is the sense of Indianness that you still have? What are you holding on with? And what do you think is some of the misconceptions people have then when they see images like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in India. If you're born in a country, you're grown there. I came in 1996 when I was 30 something. So you have an allegiance towards your country, which gave you education, right? I wrote on 26th of January, which is our Republic Day, that India has given me so much. I paid only 1,400 rupees, which is 20 pounds for my whole MBBS medical education, which is about a few pay. It has given so much to us. Education is great, and our teachers were great, the morals were great. So suddenly, when you hear, and I had great Muslim, as you know, I was living in Kashmir. Kashmir is almost 96% Muslims. So my friends and my father's colleagues and my mommy's colleagues, they're all Muslims, majority. And we had good relationship with them. And when you hear that they're portraying a prime minister as anti-Muslim and all, which is not right. The riots did happen. I can't say no. Why did it happen? I told you about the train burning. People were charged up. They were killing each other and all that. But Modi was not directly responsible. I remember the army was called in within 3 days. And that is what it is. It hurts you. Why is your country of birth being portrayed in a wrong way? That is the reason why I was protesting, and we organized this protest in London and other parts of the country, up and down UK, because it hurts you that your own country has been portrayed in a very wrong and biased way.
What were you hoping to gain from the protests in Birmingham, London, and Glasgow?
Just to tell BBC, because BBC are told when we have a protest. The last time also, when there was a Leicester riot, one-sided BBC portrayal, we did send our memo just to highlight it to the BBC that this can't go on. They should look into themselves, that this kind of documentaries and all, they are not, they're completely biased. That was what our idea was, to tell BBC today. That was the idea.
See, what's quite interesting, because I understand, is the fact that you were born there, and what you're saying from your own experience, your lived experience being based in Kashmir, is he saw that there was a bias in the way that the news was projected across the globe. He's
Yeah.
saying your story wasn't told as well as it should have done. But there is an argument that people are saying, which is saying a lot of people don't like Boris Johnson, and he's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That doesn't mean that they're anti-British. They just don't like him as a person. It doesn't mean that they're anti-Christian. They just don't like Boris Johnson. Could the same thing not be applied to Narendra Modi as a Prime Minister of India?
But they were not even the documentary. They were saying that he's anti-Muslim, and they were showing his, interviews of other people from his party saying that yes, we should do this program against Muslims. But they were not showing, people who would have said no, this is not right. So they were trying to slant it as paint Modi as a very anti-Muslim guy, basically. Because I'm not. To be honest, I'm very unbiased. I got nothing pro or anti-Modi, but my blood boils when people start telling lies. The same thing happened when Mark Tully was painting only one-sided picture. So if anybody paints one-sided picture is not balanced, that I don't like. I feel that they are not telling the truth. And they are skewing the truth.
Because you're saying we place a great reliance on the integrity of the media to do what is right and what is open. And now all of a sudden, the media in your mind is being incredibly biased the way that they release the news. Now, I saw one of the protesters that you had alongside you, and he said, look, why did the BBC never talk about what happened with the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya? Why did they never talk about what was happening to minority communities in neighboring countries across India?
Yeah, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, they regularly kidnapped Hindu girls in Pakistan. They converted. And the court doesn't do anything. BBC never covers that. Even Sikhs in Afghanistan, the way they were being killed, and they didn't do any program. There's so many atrocities happening to minorities in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, and Afghanistan. They don't cover that, and they suddenly attack a democratic country where this right. I mean, they had no other example of in the last 20 years, so they cottoned out to this right. If Muslims were so much tortured in India, you would have had, a flood of Muslims from India coming and seeking refuge in Sweden, UK, America, Canada, which doesn't happen. In fact, you have Muslims from Bangladesh and Pakistan, especially Pakistan, they come here as refugees from a Muslim country saying that they've been tortured by Muslims. You won't even, when they say Kashmir has been tortured, you will find these people from Mirpur, part of Pakistan, claiming themselves to be Kashmiris. They're not Kashmiris. They don't even speak Kashmiri. You won't find a Kashmiri-speaking Muslim in large numbers in UK because they're very happy there. The whole state is there. They are looked after very well. Every house has got 4 or 5 cars. They're very wealthy. If you see the impression of Beirut or Syria or Afghanistan, the photographs, do you see the same photographs of Kashmir? No. You will see Mughal gardens, you will see Gulmarg, you will see tulip gardens. That is the kind of progress they have made. It is not what is being portrayed by Pakistan. The visuals, even the Kashmiri visuals you will see, you will find great, Mughal, these kind of places. It's not rubbled like, as I said, like Kabul or Beirut, but it was in 70s when you must have been very, very young. Or even Syria, they're not like that. They're painting wrong picture. BBC should concentrate on helping the minorities and how they are looked after in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan. Instead, they're attacking the only democratic country in that part of the world. India is the only democratic country out there.
India means something to you, evidently, and you're very passionate about that. And your Kashmir, and your Kashmiri background is something that I think we could take a deeper dive into. Do you feel that you mean anything to India? And do you feel this protest ultimately showcases some type of alliance that people have in the diaspora to say, hey, look, we're trying to stand up for a sense of belonging, a sense of validation to the motherland?
For me, it is emotional because I feel that they have told that they're spreading lies, and I wanted them to. I wanted to tell BBC that they should portray the truth about India, not these kind of sectarian violence which has taken 20 years back, and creating a gulf between the two communities. India, after partition, many Muslims wanted to stay in India, and they were welcome. If India was so biased so anti-Muslim, you wouldn't have found, Shah Rukh Khan or Salman Khan or Amir Khan being India's top actors. They would have been nowhere. If it was run like a Hindu state, the directors would have been told not to take these Muslims. It is not the case. In India, anyone who is good, has got talent, goes up. One of the richest Indian is Azim Premji, the Wipro guy. He's a Muslim. We had a Muslim president as well. So anyone who is good raises to the. How many times has Shah Rukh Khan been, or Salman Khan or Amir Khan been taken down and told, some director, don't take him for any actor? We don't mind. They are good. They are good. How many Indian actors and Hindu actors are there in Pakistan or Bangladesh? Nil. Pakistan's Hindu population used to be 25% during 1947. Now it is hardly 1 or 2%. Same thing with Bangladesh. We used to have 33% Hindus. Now they're hardly 5 or 6%. All converted, raped, and whatever they want to do. They're so cruel, and they look at us as if we are doing it. India is a country of everyone. It is a secular country. It doesn't belong to Hindus. It doesn't belong to Christians. It doesn't belong to Sikhs. It doesn't belong to Muslims. It belongs to everyone.
I can see, obviously, you're very passionate about the subject itself, and it's nice because it is something part of your lived experience. What does it mean to you to be Indian? What is that identity for you?
For me, I want India to progress, which it has. It is into rocketry. It is into nuclear sciences. It is very, very advanced in some in particular scientific area. It has poverty issues. I won't deny it. There is extreme poverty as well. When I go to India, I still see beggars. But at the same time, I see a lot of progress. I was lucky. My father was in Germany. He had come back, so we had car and other things. But at that time, I can recognize India was very poor. When I go to India now, it is pretty pretty rich.
But what does the identity of being Indian mean to you?
It means that I belong to a country, an old civilization, which has done very well. It will do very well. It is one of the fastest growing economy in the world. Makes me very proud. And I want to be its ambassador. I've always been its great ambassador. People have told me that you're a great ambassador for India. I want to continue to be its ambassador, and don't want it to be portrayed in a negative, bad light based on lies. If they tell me that there is poverty in India, people are below poverty level, 30% or 20%, I will agree, yes. And how do we take them out of poverty? I will love to have a discussion on that. But not portraying India as anti-Muslim or anti-Sikh or whatever, just because they want to.
So if the BBC turned around and said, Vivek, this is a documentation of all the research we've done, and you can go through every single aspect, and that, hypothetically speaking, and that documentation it has a third-party narrative, you can see all the chain of evidence alongside that, would you then say, okay, I have now seen the evidence that have enabled the BBC to produce what they've done, now I accept the verdict that they put forward? What would have to happen for you to say, actually, that is unbiased and is an open discussion?
I would ask them in the last 20 years, if it was true that Indian administration were anti-Muslim, where is the migration trail? How many Muslims have migrated and left out of aeroplanes or gone to a foreign country to seek asylum? They don't. They're very proud. Muslims, I must salute them. They're very proud Indians. They will. The thing in 1947 was that the middle class and upper middle class of Muslims, they could migrate. They went to Pakistan. They left behind a huge chunk of Muslims who were artisans, who were workers, who were craftsmen, locksmiths. So these kind of Muslims stayed in India because they were poor. They couldn't migrate. So and they're still doing. If you go to India, if you have to do all these things, tailoring, darzi, and all, they will be all Muslims. Or zari work, zardosi, carpet weaving. That is all Muslim. They're very proud. They don't want to leave it. And they are very good. I know many Muslims, he can drive, he is a tailor, he is a craftsman, he can sew. They're multi-talented. So these guys are happy what they're doing. They are earning money. And as I said, there are a lot of yojanas, schemes by the Prime Minister, central government for them. So for me, I will ask BBC, if the Muslims are so much tortured, so much, this bias, are the migration? You get migration very quickly. They go to any country and tell West that we have been, we are not being treated well. I will first ask them, where is the migration trail? That means they are telling the lies. Muslims are still living in India. They are still in the main, part of the society. Then I will ask them that have you put an interview? Why have you interviewed the Hindu victims? Hindu victims also died in Gujarat riots. Where is their interview? How they were intimidated by crowds? I won't call them Muslim crowds, any crowd. It could be Muslim, it could be Hindu. I would ask both. Have you done the justice to the Hindu side? Because they also died.
I suppose it's very raw for you for the fact that you lived through the whole Kashmir issue and you saw how that was reported, and then based upon that, you're saying, do you feel that it's almost repeated once more? Then the horrors of the past was just repeated again on screen.
Exactly.
Saying, okay.
Exactly, because I know these people lie. I used to have a perception about BBC till I suffered myself in the Kashmir Holocaust. When this Mark Tully and all these people, they were peddling lies. I know also that these guys were not even going to the front line to get the truth. They were sitting in a hotel in Kashmir. I know all these things. And they were just third or fourth hand news they were peddling, which was based on lies.
It's interesting. Obviously, now the BBC documentary has gone out. And in India, there's been widespread issues on that side of the globe. Do you feel cancelling or blocking a documentary almost engulfs it and adds more curiosity behind it? What's your thoughts?
I think if I was there, I wouldn't ban it, because nowadays banning something is difficult. People will find links from anywhere in the internet. I don't think it was a wise move to ban it. Let people see it. Let them see that how they are portrayed the country, the prime minister in a bad light. Let them take their own views. And as such, people who want to say it have seen it. So I agree with you that it should not have been banned. Let people see it. Now it is out. Let them make their own mind.
Running back onto your side, obviously you're also involved in politics. You're involved in the Conservative Party. Now, when you have a look at this, and you can overwhelmingly see that there are these political camps going on either side, is the documentary also a political play in the UK? Does it showcase the division in the UK, in your opinion?
I could, to be frank, I may not have as it become one-sided again. If you ask me this question, I could guess that it could be Labour could be siding the documentary, and Tories would not side the documentary. The reasons being, the majority of these the voters, from subcontinent, from Pakistan, they vote Labour in the northern part of this country, the mills and all that, old factory areas. And Indians have moved. Indians in the last elections have moved. They are voting Tories in great numbers. So we have had a shift of Indian voters voting. So I would feel that Tories would support our view on the documentary, that it should be unbiased. But as the Labour member parliament, that they asked question of Rishi Sunak, should Modi be banned or something like that, and Rishi supported Modi, saying I don't agree with that characterization of Modi. He did take our view there.
That's
interesting. I would feel Tories would support our view and Labour would not. If you ask me as a betting man.
No, fair enough. Well, if I ever need bets in the future, Vivek, I'll definitely give you a call through, or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It's interesting because your background is fascinating. The fact that you were able, alongside your team, to get all these numbers out there to do a protest, and a peaceful protest, mind you. It was very peacefully done as well. I think is interesting, especially how people look at identity. Now, when I looked at the photos of many of the people there, it was the older generation that was representing. Now, is there a reason why? Is it the case that the way that people look at their identity in India is on that the golden generation?
It's a good question. Even before I was talking to you today, there are two people waiting, a lady and a man, wanting to speak to me. I said I got this interview with you about the same thing, how to get more youth for the next protest if we have one. So we are
Well,
thinking.
hopefully there shouldn't be another protest.
No, even
it should be
protest or
better.
even any function or any, because a lot of things will happen this year because in UK, India, this free trade agreement, all those things, happy occasions will also happen. So we are, after this, I'll be talking to them how to involve more youth. Not only youth were less there were ladies were also very less. Women were not as many, it was maybe 10%. So that is also an issue. We will look back how to get more women on these protests or events to come out, and definitely youth.
Why do you feel that there is a disconnect with the youth? Is it the case that they look at identity slightly differently now, or?
No idea. I no idea. I'm a very frank person. I will tell you more than anybody else will tell you. I feel Indians, generally the youngsters, they love, it is our nature. We love gods and demigods. If there was, I organized a protest for Vivek Kaul, the filmmaker, in Speaker's Corner, because he was not allowed to speak in Oxford. And it was a bit depressed. So I told him, why are you like that? Let us do it in Speaker's Corner. So when we organized that in June, we almost had 2,000 people. So there is this, and they were youngsters. Majority were very, very young people. So we have a perception, if we have a god or demigod or somebody a little bit more famous, we'll get huge. If we get Akshay Kumar to help Indians, you will have 50,000 people, youngsters coming. We have something in our culture. We love demigods.
It is. I suppose we're looking for people.
It is something, I don't know what it is. It is. We love heroes.
Another conversation for another day. But Vivek, you know what? I really do appreciate you coming on, because it has been an incredibly long day for you. I think.
Thank you, Rajan. No, I wanted to do it for you.
What do you want to leave the audience with? Because people are listening in from around the world. They've obviously making up their opinions about the documentary. They're having a look at it. And many people will be saying this is a great example of free and open for press. People, journalists can say what they wish, but it's the court of public opinion based upon facts that really allows people to say whether we accept this or we reject it. Yes. They do need to have the choice.
Yeah, I would tell them like what my parents told me in the childhood. They used to take me to a lot of these ministers and chief ministers and even Indira Gandhi. I used to meet them as a kid. So my father used to tell me, don't take sides. Just be unbiased. Just listen to both sides. There are always two sides to a story, if not three sides to a story. Just be biased and just question yourself. The person in front of you, is he telling the truth? Why is he not bringing the other side? Why is he painting only one person in a bad way? If the country is progressing, why is he telling this guy is a villain or something like that? So this has been ingrained into me from the childhood. As soon as you speak, within one or two sentences, I would know that what is your motive. If I read a paragraph or a post, within 3 lines, I will say what exactly the writer wants to say in the mid part and the end. You know within seconds that the bias cannot be hidden. So I would tell your friends and your listeners to be completely unbiased in their lives, whether it is a documentary, whether it is BBC, whether it's anyone. Don't go for gospel truth. Nobody speaks the truth. There's a fake element in every documentary, every post, every YouTuber you meet. So be unbiased, and you will pick up. Over the years, you will start picking up the truth between these lines.
I think that's the reality, though, isn't there? There's conscious but unconscious bias. And as you said, there's 3 versions of the truth. There's your version, that person's version, and then the real version in the middle. Yeah, something that's almost grey. Vivek, I could speak to you for the whole evening. I'd love to find out more about your experience in Kashmir, but obviously I know that is a
some other time.
Absolutely.
We should do Kashmir some other time.
Absolutely.
I will tell you the truth, complete truth.
Yeah, and you lived through that, didn't you? You saw.
Yeah. I'm still in touch with the Hindus and Muslims in that place, because I couldn't believe it. I will take just 60 seconds. When I used to see the Jewish documentaries before this thing happened to us, the Jews used to say that they don't have any angst or angry or towards the Germans. I used to say, why? They have been gassed. Why don't they bloody are so angry? Now I feel going through the same experience, I don't have any, anger towards the local Muslims there. I don't.
Do you still have any anger over the Kashmir issue?
Anger, let us do it some other time. It's a good topic. Yeah, I have anger, but against a lot of people, including the government. So let us do it some other time. It will be an interesting program.
Absolutely. Vivek, lovely to have you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranjan.
Okay. Well, this certainly is a very interesting conversation. I'd like to say a massive thank you to our dear guest, Dr. Vivek Kaul, for coming on the podcast, especially with the long day that he had, but also to have an open and frank discussion. And I think that's the important part here. Regardless as if we agree or disagree with the comments we made throughout the whole podcast, we should have the ability to debate, to have open conversation, because via those open discussion pieces, we get further. We get a deeper understanding about how the other thinks, and importantly, we also start to understand how unitedly we can make a difference for all sentient beings on the planet. If you'd like to find out more about the work that we do at the Global Indian Series, and if you're new to the show, well, where have you been all these years? Come up to the website. The website is as follows. It's www.globalindianseries.com, or you can follow us on the social media platforms. Our aim is simple: to continue to be the official platform for open and liberal minds, especially for people of Indian origin, and more importantly, to take on the mantle of social custodianship and rebuild the world's largest living encyclopedia of people just like us. Until next week, I hope all remains well. Stay good for now.
Global Indian Network. Print, TV, events, podcasts. Find out more at globalindianseries.com.